Can you share? Can we check the presentation part?
Sure. Let me just share my screen. Just give me a second.
Okay. Good morning, Swati. Good to have you for our presentation.
Do you see my presentation right now?
Yes, I can see that. I have to pin on that, right? Yes, I can see. Yeah, I can.
Okay. You see the full screen view, right? Not the show view.
Yes. No,
Okay.
not the show view. I can see the full screen.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So we will have to wait for another 10 minutes.
Sure.
Exactly 11 o'clock we will start.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to one and all. Hello, everyone. A very good morning to our esteemed participants, architects, engineers, professionals of allied fields, and students. Today is the second day of our Terrain 2020 webinar series of faculty development program on the theme Rediscovering Urban Landscapes. I would like to introduce myself. I am Lavanya Vikram, and my colleague architect Yashas Hegde welcome you all on board. We will be moderating the session for today. I welcome the speakers of the day, Mr. Ullas Anand and Professor Rajshekhar Rao. I would like to introduce you all to our first speaker of the day, Mr. Ullas Anand. Ullas Anand has been associated with bird watching, wildlife and the environment for over 3 decades, starting out as a bird watcher and a naturalist. His primary interest has been in building awareness and sensitizing people towards outdoors. Conducting numerous nature camps, talks, walks and workshops for schools, colleges and corporates. Sorry, let's see. Video is on. Let's see. Okay, sorry for the interruption. He has co-authored reports and papers and has been part of various surveys and communities involved in biodiversity, research and conservation. He is the co-founder of EcoEdu, an initiative that works to deliver high-quality education on environment through activities and publications. He has worked with more than 100 schools and colleges in Bangalore and conducted UGC credit course on ornithology, ecology, wildlife tourism. EcoEdu has published a series of books on urban flora, including avenue trees and garden climbers. Some of the community activities supported by EcoEdu, including Bengaluru Bird Day and Neralu, the Tree Festival. Through a collaboration with Calm Design, she has also led a dialogue around sustainable redesign and conducted a series of workshops on nature-inspired design thinking for architects and product designers. These workshops have inspired patents, research papers, and publications for by the participants. He is a part of Bengaluru Namma Metro Neighborhood Advisory Committee and also advises local lake committees and RWA on biodiversities. As a moderator for over 15 years, he has helped grow one of the largest online discussion groups on birds and wildlife in India as well. Along with his interest in wildlife, he has worked with multiple corporates over the last 2 decades across various geographies, designing and building usable products. He currently works as a vice president of product management at Typhoon Inc., a Portland-based startup in the infotech space. He has done his post-graduation in marketing from the University of Wales, UK. An introduction to biodiversity. Life in our cities. Mr. Ullas Anand believes in the philosophy of designing cities being life-centric other than human-centric. This talk will introduce you to biodiversity of urban areas and focus on sustaining areas that support them. It will showcase the most commonly found life forms in our cities, their habitat, the best place to see them, the tools needed to watch them, and how one can contribute their observation to science. It will also briefly touch upon the changing environment of our cities, memories of what used to be, and what one can do to preserve what we have. Sir, I welcome you again on behalf of School of Architecture, Ramaiah Institute of Technology. The stage is... Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So I hope everyone can hear me. Very good morning to everybody. So to begin with, when we talk about, cities, we talk about, a whole lot of things, right? And when we talk about wildlife, the things that come to our mind, are, things like this, green forests, beautiful landscapes, lush greenery, right? When we talk about wildlife, we talk about elephants. What comes to our mind are deer, animals like the gaur, leopards, tigers, right? And a whole lot of other things that come to our mind. What we don't associate wildlife with are cities, right? And there's a reason for that. The reason being that when we talk about nature, our mind always goes towards these lush landscapes. And when we talk about cities, we're looking at urban sprawls. We're talking about gray areas. We're talking about cement, and we're talking about concrete. We're talking about construction. We're talking about traffic. We're talking about small spaces. We're talking about construction. We're talking about high rises. But there's a lot of life that lives in our cities. And when we talk about urban sprawls, again, normally when I ask people, what animals live in the city, the first answer is always this, right? Pigeons, because pigeons have very well adapted to our construction methods, and pigeons are what we call as ledge nesters, meaning they nest on ledges, and they used to traditionally nest on ledges of hillocks and hills. Now, with all the apartments and everything that we're constructing, we are providing them artificially made hills and hillocks, and all the hangovers on top of windows are, beautiful edges for them to nest. That's why there's a huge, explosion in their numbers. And this is the first life form that comes to our minds when we talk about, life in the city. So what is wildlife? So when we talk about wildlife, we say wildlife, and it's not just the tiger, it's not just the leopard. It's pretty much any organism that is not domesticated by us or kept by us as a pet, right? So that includes pretty much everything from the cockroach to the mosquito to everything else. And we are surrounded literally by wildlife around us because these are life which live around us and are not really claimed by us or kept for our needs, but they coexist with us. So when we look at, I'll be talking a little more specific about Bangalore, but this is true with all other cities as well in India. And most of the cities in India have, very similar characteristics in terms of, looking at what kind of life exists. There are some exceptions, of course. If you go to the Northeast, if you go to, places like Assam or Nagaland, obviously the life forms you get there are a little different. But then if you're talking about, any of the major cities in India, most of them have very similar characteristics. And life in those cities are also very similar. So we'll be talking about life in the cities, but I'll be kind of bringing into focus what we have in Bangalore, and then using that as a base to talk about life found elsewhere in India as well. So, but if you look at Bangalore is primarily a grassland habitat, full of what we call kavals. Kavals are a traditional name given for grassland pastures. And it was slowly transformed into a woodland by planting of trees. So all the old British illustrations that we look at, shows Bangalore pretty much has a grassland, and there are enough records which exist to show that this was a grassland, and it's kind of between Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats. The last finger of Western Ghats called Bannerghatta National Park. For those who are not familiar with Bangalore, it comes and touches the city almost 20 kilometers from the center of the city, but now there are localities of the city which have gone till the edge of Bannerghatta National Park as well, similar to what we have in Mumbai with the Sanjay Gandhi, National Park as well. So SJMP, MP, or the Delhi Ridge, or Bannerghatta National Park, all of them have very similar urban forest characteristics, and being national parks, they all extend beyond the cities. Towards the back to extensive forest ranges, which then tie into the major ghats that we have. And Bangalore, in fact, geographically is located right in between Western and Eastern Ghats. So if you go a little further from Bangalore, you have Krishnagiri and Nilgiri Hills, which are all part of the Eastern Ghats, and then you have Bangalore itself, which is, Bannerghatta itself, which touches Bangalore, which is last finger of Western Ghats. So this is the finger which I'm talking about that comes all the way. In fact, right now, if you get into Bannerghatta from Bangalore, you can actually go all the way to, Bihar Hills or Nagapurde or Bandipur without ever coming out of the forest. So, there is a contiguous piece of forest today, thanks to some of the work done by the forest department. And the rocks in Bangalore are also some of the oldest rocks on the planet. So if you look at how the Earth was formed 4.5 billion years ago, it was a ball fire. And once it started cooling down, the first rocks that formed, Deccan Plateau was one of the pieces of land that got formed, first. And the peninsular Gneiss, as what we call it, is one of the oldest rocks on this planet, and it's about 3.5 billion years old. The only other place where you would get gneiss at the surface, like what we see in Deccan Plateau, is probably in Greenland, right? And then, you have, geographically, you have a lot of history as well in south of India. And, these rock sheets provide us, life which has evolved on them for millions of years, billions of years, in fact. And if you look at a city like Mumbai also has the Deccan Traps, which are more recent, but then, they also have, apart from the Deccan Trap flows, you also have the base rock, which is, again, the gneiss, right? So there is a lot of, life which has evolved around what we call, as our cities. And Bangalore, if you look at it, has grown and grown. And today what we see here is the greater Bangalore area, very similar to how Mumbai has grown to include, Vashi and Navi Mumbai, and Delhi has grown to include Gurgaon, and, so it's slowly growing, right? I mean, our cities are growing, and though disconnected, satellite cities and towns are now becoming more, influenced by the central, urban sprawl, and we're slowly getting to ring roads and peripheral ring roads, and then outer ring roads, and then, all kinds of, surrounding roads which cut through the green spaces around cities. Some of the fauna of Bangalore, if you look at it, this is a historic perspective, and we have similar checklists for pretty much every city in India, including Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai. So if you look at any of these things, you see that there's a quite a substantial number of species which are represented in Bangalore alone in terms of life within the city, and these are this biodiversity is very rich, and just to give you an example, say I'll take an example of butterflies. There are about 180 species of butterflies in Bangalore alone. The whole of UK has, I think, 24, right? So it's a huge biodiversity that we have, and this literally influences, our way of life, and should rather. And we don't pay that much attention to some of the life forms around us, but it should. And Bangalore's, vegetation type is again thorn scrub. Most of the cities have thorn scrub around them. There are still patches of grasslands that are still intact. A lot of the cities, like the Delhi Ridge, Delhi has Delhi Ridge, which is, again, a hilly range, which extends all the way to Rajasthan on one side. And then you also have wetlands, and this is unique to South India, where, all lakes in South India are man-made. So they were used for irrigation purposes. So they were literally water tanks, as we call them. Technically, they are water tanks built by people to store water for the drier months. So there would be monsoon, the water would get stored, and they would, use it for the drier months. And the lakes would run dry, through the summer, and then again get filled up during the monsoon. And this was a pattern that was established before we actually started pumping in sewage into lakes. And Bangalore has a lot of wetlands even today. In fact, we do a wetland survey. We've been doing it since 1988 in the city of Bangalore, at least. This is the large bird watching community. And I've been part of these surveys since 1989. And we've been looking at, like even last year, or rather this year, December and January of 2019 and 2020, we visited 182 lakes in Bangalore, just to look at what migratory birds are visiting them. And we still see life, surprisingly. Life is very hardy and can survive, but the numbers have gone down. So we'll come to that a little later during the talk, but there are a lot of wetlands, and these wetlands also influence life around them, be it, the mosquito problem in apartments, or be it, people who want to grow, vegetables using this water, or be it people who want to just walk around and use them as morning, walking spaces. So there's a lot of life that revolves around. Some of the life that is found in Bangalore, large in the world, the Atlas moth. This is a pretty significantly big moth. If it sits on my shoulder, it will cover my face, right? So it's a very big moth, and it's found in Bangalore, and it's found in a lot of the cities, in India as well. And it's like I said, it's the largest moth in the world, and it's again something that's found within urban spaces, though not really in the center of the city, but towards the outskirts. The longest migrating or the highest flying dragonflies in the world, these are called globe skimmers. They come all the way from Africa to India, migrating over the sea, and they come and spend 3 generations in India, and they catch the reverse monsoon going back, the northeast monsoon, and they head back from India all the way back to Africa over the open seas. And again, they spend 3 generations in Africa. And there is a a falcon called as the Amur falcon that comes all the way from the Amur region of China, that actually migrates again from China all the way to South Africa, and they fly through the open seas. And the Amur falcon is a very small bird. It's about the size of a myna, but it's a falcon, and it primarily feeds on insect life. So those Amur falcons actually feed on these dragonflies migrating, clouds of these dragonflies migrating. And there's a beautiful balance which is established between these migration patterns. What we've realized now is that the every fourth generation of this dragonfly, which actually goes back or comes back to India, the wing shapes are also different. The wing structures are different. So there's genetic coding which changes the wing form itself for the migrating generation, and the other generations have different wing forms. And there's a lot of study happening today on that. But these dragonflies, like I said, though they are very flimsy, you not give it to them to make this arduous journey, but they fly all the way from the Horn of Africa to India, right across the open seas, and they do this twice every year, right? And they're found again in Bangalore and rest of the cities. You'll see them stopping in midair and just scoping out their next prey. The fastest birds in the world, the peregrine falcon and the swifts. In fact, the fastest bird is found towards the north of India. It's called as the needle-tailed swift, and that flies at around 150 kilometers an hour. That's what it's been clocked at, 135 to 150 kilometers an hour, and it's found in the northern parts of India. Whereas the peregrine falcon, which flies faster than a Formula One car, it touches 400 kilometers per hour speeds. These are found. There are two races of peregrine falcons which are found in India: the migratory race that comes all the way from Eurasia, and the race which breeds here, which nests here in India, called as the Shaheen falcon, which is what is shown here on the screen. They actually breed here, and they're found again, in Bangalore, around other cities as well. And these birds, in the dive flight, while they're swooping down and trying to catch another bird, like let's say a pigeon, they touch speeds of 400 kilometers an hour, and they're probably one of the fastest organisms on this planet, right? And like I said, they are faster than a Formula One car as well. So we find them very much in our cities. The highest flying migrant, these birds come all the way from Tibet, and they stop over all the way on their journey all the way to the tip of South India and to Sri Lanka, and they stop all across. They stop in all the lakes, all the way from Tibet down to the tip of the southern tip of India, and these are called bar-headed geese. They are, I think, the fifth or the sixth highest flying bird recorded in the world. They're probably the highest migratory bird recorded in the world. People who are climbing Mount Everest have seen them go overhead, right, at 28,000 feet. And there are records of them, at least these were non-recorded observations. There are video recordings and photographs of them at least flying at around 22,000 feet, right? So these come all the way from Tibet, and they made the journey from, say, somewhere around Mumbai, the region of Mumbai, to Tibet. They climb up to that height, of 28,000 feet in about 7 hours of flight, right? And they are known to fly continuously. And these birds are very much found in lakes. In Bangalore, in fact, they were found within the city at one point in time. I'm talking about 25, 30 years back. But now they're found around, the lakes of Bangalore, around the city of Bangalore. But not in many lakes, but yeah, they are still recorded. Again, fantastic flyers, and we get to see them, almost all through the country during the winter months. The largest bovine in the world, and this again is spread across South India all the way to Melghat. This is again the Indian gaur. It's not the American bison. This is a cattle which is about 1,500 kgs or 1.5 tons. It stands at around 7 feet. It's the biggest cattle species in the world, and these are found again in India. They're found very much around our cities. I mean, if you go towards, say, Sanjay Gandhi National Park, or if you go towards Banagada National Park, you may likely get to see them. There are quite a few of them. There is a herd in Banagatta, in fact. So the Indian gaur is again one more creature that you could see around the cities. The largest butterfly in India, the common birdwing. In fact, the northern subspecies of this just unseated the southern subspecies, the southern birdwing, about 2 weeks ago as the largest butterfly. And this is about a little bigger than a half-foot ruler. And these are again found in cities. I've seen them within the city in Bangalore. They're also found in other cities across India as well, mainly on the outskirts. And these butterflies are, again, like I said, very large butterflies. Again, attracted to flowers for nectaring during their adult stages. The smallest butterfly in India, the southern grass jewel, it's about a centimeter, in width. That's about the size of my, fingernail on my little finger. And that's, again, these are found within the cities. Any wild area with grass around them, you should be able to see them. And they're found in multiple, cities across the country as well. The largest spider in India, it's about the size of my palm. There's an arboreal spider. It means it nests in trees, tree hollows. And these are found, the tarantulas, the arboreal tarantulas, and these are found in Bangalore. These are found in other cities as well. Mainly they live on top of trees. In fact, last year we rescued 2 of these from on top of buildings in the city. In fact, this was on apartment blocks and the museum in the center of the city. So there were 2 of them found and they were rescued. So very much present in the city as well. The largest frog in India, the Indian bullfrog, used to be very common, about 20 years ago within the city. This is about the size of a small cat, a small kitten, or about the size of a bandicoot. It's a pretty big frog, and it gets this beautiful yellow color, the males, during the breeding season with the beautiful blue ocal sacs. And these were found pretty much within the cities, now more relegated towards the outskirts. I have not seen them for the longest time. So frogs are threatened and severely threatened due to development. The smallest snake, the Brahmini blind snake. Again, if you dig up a pot in the garden, you should be able to see this. They feed primarily on earthworms and other creatures. And these are small little snakes. As you can see, it's on someone's palm, and very small little snakes which can be found in our gardens. The smallest bird in India, the flower pecker. There are multiple subspecies or species of flower peckers. A lot of diversity towards the northeast of the country, but we do have other flower peckers, and like the pale-billed flower pecker, which is pictured here, in other parts of the country. So if you plant a Singapore cherry, you are definitely going to get a flower pecker. Also goes the logic. And the flower pecker is about the size of my thumb. It's one of the smallest birds in India. These birds prefer eating berries and petals of flowers, and they move around, and they're very active during the day. And if you have a Singapore cherry tree in your garden, do keep an eye out, and you should be able to see them. They're about the size of your thumb. The smallest bat in India, it's about the size of a butterfly, and this is called as the Indian pygmy bat. And these bats are insectivores, and they usually fly around at in the evenings at the street lights. And you should be able to see the small little bat, which is like a butterfly flying and getting attracted to the street light. These are again found across the country, the Indian pygmy bat, or the pipistrelle as we call it. The largest bat in India, again, is the Indian flying fox. There are colonies of these across cities. And these bats, the subspecies, the Thailand subspecies is the largest bat in the world of this. These bats are frugivorous bats, meaning they're fruit-eating bats. And they don't use echolocation. They have very good eyesight, and they also can smell fruit. And they move out in thousands during the evenings and come back to massive communal roosts in the early mornings after feeding on fruit orchards around the cities. And they're pretty much found in every city. There are colonies of these bats, and they're wonderful creatures. They are responsible for, fruit bats are probably responsible for more afforestation than any single creature, and they probably plant more trees than any other creature that we know, right? And they eat a lot of fruit, and when they poop, the seeds of those fruits actually fall down and they have good fertilizer value, and then they germinate and take root. And these bats really contribute quite a lot. We also have the largest land animal in India, the Asiatic elephant, which is found around the cities, right? In Bangalore, in fact, it's come to some of the outlying areas in Bangalore as well. And we do have mass migrations that happen that touches, cities like Bangalore. And these are, also found around our cities. Also get to see the national bird, animal, tree, and flower. At least in Bangalore, we get to see all four of them. We have the lotuses, we have the banyan, we have peacocks now, which have come into the city because of the lockdown, pandemic lockdowns and things like that. And we also have the tiger. There's a family of at least 3 tigers which are in Banagata in the wild. And we do have SGNP in Mumbai, which has a lot of leopards. We do have Hyderabad, which has a lot of leopards. We have, a lot of cities where leopards have adapted themselves so well to the human habitation that they're found, very close to our dwellings. Some of the other things, moving on, beautiful, trees like the flame of the forest that again found on the outskirts, often ignored during landscaping. Extremely pretty trees to have, slow growing, yes, but they come out and bloom, and they're really attractive to look at. So those of you who are into landscaping can look at these as alternatives. They attract a lot of life. I'm talking about trees which will attract a lot of life. I will talk about what kind of life they could attract. Some of these trees are really, really nice to have in your gardens, and they get a ton of birds visiting them. Some of the avenue trees, we have a book called Discover Avenue Trees. Beautiful trees come from all over the world, which have been planted mainly for visual relief, urban planning, gardening purposes, landscaping purposes. But then there's a lot of life that is adapted towards it and to these trees, and you still get trees which are non-native, but then attract a lot of life, right? So depending on how you choose the trees that you plant for your landscaping purposes, you can get beautiful things going to flower like that, or the jacaranda here, and also plant trees which actually attract life and not just look beautiful, right? So you can have the best of both in terms of both landscaping value and wildlife friendly. Smaller things like the touch-me-not, runners on the grounds, creepers, runners, climbers. These are all things that are often ignored. Again, touch-me-not has got beautiful flowers. These are runners on the ground, can be planted for landscaping value rather than something which is totally exotic and doesn't attract life. Again, you can look at smaller places, like for example, an area which is probably the entrance of opposite to the entrance of a building, where you would normally put lawns and things like that. So you could have small little runners and plants like this which attract again a lot of life. The giant milkweed, again found very much within our cities, attracts a lot of life, used by butterflies, used by a whole lot of creatures, as larval host plots to, looking at, these plants for other purposes. The fig, again, some of our most useful native trees so far as life goes. The fig itself is not a flower. I mean, the flower of a fig is what we call as a syconium, meaning it's a flower which never opens fully. It's a flower which is always enclosed, and there's a small little pore here, the syconium, through which a wasp actually gets in. And when the female wasp gets in, there are hairs which are pointing in the opposite direction, and these hairs actually tear her wings, and she goes inside, she lays eggs, dies within the fruit. And then there's the next generation, and some of the males are blind. They are worm-like, creatures. The females have wings, and the males actually dig a small little hole out and let the females out. And the females, in fact, collect a lot of pollen and they go out and again enter another fruit and die within the fruit, and in the process deposit the pollen. So there's co-evolution between the fruit and the fig wasp in such a tight manner that if the fig wasps go extinct, that species of figs go extinct. And if a particular species of fig goes extinct, the fig wasps in turn go extinct. And there are other wasps which don't enter the fruit, but they use their long ovipositor, which are needle-like structures at the tip of their abdomen, and they pierce the fruit and they lay eggs from the outside. And these eggs in turn hatch, and those larvae actually prey on the larvae of the fig wasp. So there is predator and prey, a micro ecosystem, happening within one single fruit. And these fruits are loved by birds. You have a fig tree means you have a bird magnet. You get to attract a lot of birds. These can be these iconic pieces in your landscaping where you could have a fig tree as the centerpiece and do everything around it. And you could actually have a lot of birds, visit, the fig trees, right? And especially during the time of the year when they are in fruit, you literally see, tons of birds visiting them. Again, things like the bird nest mushrooms, a lot of fungi. The normal thing that we see is that we clear dead wood, we clear dead leaves, we don't leave anything lying on the ground while we are doing gardening. It's always better to leave things back because there's a lot of life that depends on it. And in turn, this life attracts a lot more life, right? So, while you are planning gardens, you could, allow for an area which is not clear, which can be left as it is, where the, fallen log or a fallen branch or fallen leaves are not swept away, right? And they could in turn harbor, a whole lot of life. Another very common creature found within our homes, the silverfish, one of the insects where none of the stages of its life have wings, right? One of the very few insects in the world where, this and probably the earwigs are the only two groups of insects which don't have wings throughout any of their, life stages. So the silverfish, again, very commonly found in our books, but primarily feed on wood. So you would see them on fallen logs as well out in the wild. Very nice creatures to have. Beetles, the most successful model in terms of an insect model in the world. There are more species of beetles than any other organism in the world. There are close to, I think, about 80,000 or maybe more, close to 100,000 species of beetles. And we have different, forms of beetles. And beetles have this unique adaptation where the front pair of wings are modified into a hard structure called as the elytra. So that's why when they hit the light, you'll see a clink, you'll hear a clink, and they fall on the ground. And these are usually held open, and then the insect flies out. They have two other pairs, the hind wings, which can help in flight, but then they have this hard covering. And this model has proven so successful in nature today that, there are more species of beetles than any other species, right? So that's a very successful model. That model has survived the test of, living in our current environment situation. Evolution is very transitional in terms of what time period we are talking about. And for this time period, they're probably more successful than any other creature on this planet. Bugs, the difference between beetles and bugs don't have that hard covering, the covering on the wing, which I've talked about. They have all four wings. And bugs also have sucking mouth parts, so a straw-like mouth part which they use to suck plant sap. So you do see bugs usually infesting plants. Beetles are more borers, so the larvae of beetles usually bore into. Can somebody go on mute, please? Okay, so bugs again are creatures which are soft-bodied, and they can be found again in gardens, sucking on sap. Again, beautiful creatures to have. if one knows how to control them, control their experience in terms of population. Ants, the jumping ant is an ant which jumps at least about 8 to 10 feet. These are solitary ants. Beautiful creatures to have, again in gardens. They're found in a lot of gardens, not just these ants, a lot of ants. We conduct what is called an ant walk at EcoEdu, where we walk all of, I think, about 500 meters in 3 hours looking at ants. And in those 500 meters, I think we get to see about 20 species of ants at least. So if the gardens are not sprayed, if the gardens are not, sprayed with chemicals and pesticides, you do get to see a lot of ants. And ants are very prominent creatures on this planet. If you take all the vertebrates, this includes all the fish, the whales, pretty much all the herds in Africa, all human beings, and put all of us on one side of a weighing scale, and take all the ants in the world and put them on another side of the weighing scale, the ants will outweigh the vertebrates. There are that many ants on this planet. In sheer biomass, they outweigh all vertebrates put together. And ants are lovely creatures to have. The weaver ant, these ants actually stitch leaves together to build nests. These are large nests you can see outside in your gardens. And these ants actually hold each other's legs, form long chains, and bring leaves together. There are other ants that walk on these ant bridges, so to say, and they use their little larvae as glue sticks to actually stitch the leaves together to form these beautiful structures that you see in gardens. Mango trees, wherever you have a mango tree, you're sure to get weaver ants as well. Lovely ants. Again, ants are great creatures to have in gardens. Very closely related to ants are the wasps. There's the potter wasp, and you can see it actually building a pot here. So it's taking mud and actually mixing it up with some moisture. And these ants actually, what they do is they build these wasps actually build a small little pot. They go and catch hold of a larva of a butterfly or a moth or something like that. They inject that larva with eggs and they put it inside the pot and seal the pot. So when the eggs hatch the next day, they have fresh meat to eat. And these larvae are not really dead, so they're just kind of put into a state of coma, and they're there. And the baby wasps that hatch out, they actually feed on those larvae. And they do the same thing with spiders. They do the same thing with larvae. They do the same thing with a lot of other creatures. And they build these beautiful pots. So these are potter wasps, as we call them. Praying mantises, they love feeding on insects, and they usually catch hold and tear them apart. The front pair of legs are modified into pincers, and they love, they feed on a lot of insects. So if you don't spray, these are all very good biological controls for larvae which eat plants, other insects that eat plants. So these are all extremely useful, predators, insect predators to have, and they kind of balance out the insects which infect plants. Dragonflies, another predator which is a voracious eater of insects. These animals feed on the air. They catch hold of a lot of insects, not only during their adult life forms. Their larval life forms are underwater, and they're voracious feeders of mosquito larvae and a whole lot of other creatures underwater. So dragonflies are great animals to have, around homes, and they eat a lot of insects. They're really top predators in the insect world. Damselflies, very closely related to dragonflies. The only difference is they keep their wings closed, whereas dragonflies keep them open, and they're more daintier damselflies as compared to dragonflies. These are again very good creatures to have around homes. Some of the butterflies that we see around, red pyros, common ceruleans, there's a whole bunch of them. Like I said, Bangalore alone has close to about 180 species within the city limits. And I think Mumbai has a similar number, 100 plus. So you could have a lot of butterflies found within cities. You could create butterfly habitats. You could plant larval host plants. You could plant nectaring plants. You could plant specific things to attract certain families of butterflies. And you could form walkways. You could form, information boards about butterflies, and then really plan beautiful butterfly gardens, in spaces that you are planning. Plain tiger, this is one of the danaid. So this is one of the milkweed butterflies which feeds on the giant milkweed, which we showed a little while back. And these butterflies belong to a family of butterflies that migrate. The evening brown, this is normally found during the evening times. They're active during the night, butterflies. And migration, while talking about butterfly migration, there is migration that happens, at least in South India, between the Eastern Ghats and the Western Ghats, where tens of thousands of these butterflies move from the east to the west or west to the east, depending on the time of the year. And you'll see each butterfly following the other butterfly. And there are, during this 3-4 days of migration, the entire sky is filled with butterflies. So given 10 minutes, you would have counted, at least about a few thousand butterflies that would have flown overhead. So across 24 hours and across a week when the migration happens, you can very well imagine the kind of numbers that we are talking. And one of the grandest sights on this planet is to see the butterflies migrate. And that happens twice a year, at least in our region, right? It's just that we don't pay that much attention to them. Another very common spider on almost all tree trunks in India, called as the common two-tail. If you go and tap, a tree trunk, you're likely to get the spider. It's a very common spider in gardens. Unless it is a garden which has been sprayed, it should still be found around. The ornate spider, again, something that we would see. Giant crab spider. This is again a spider that it feeds on other insects. All these spiders feed on other insects and are great animals to have in terms of insect control. The jumping spiders, these don't build webs. They jump around and they actually grab hold of prey and spin the web and then eat them up. Really nice again, creatures to have because they control a lot of insect pests. Like you can see here, this is a crab spider, which looks like the flower. It's camouflaged with the flower here. This is the spider. If you can follow the arrow on the screen, and it's caught the bee, right? And they lay in wait, and they lay in wait to catch hold of insects like this. And this is one of the things that you can see. Beautiful adaptations. Wonderful. Some of the crab spiders are almost transparent in color. The giant wood spiders, these build webs which are about 20 feet across. They can even catch hold of small birds and eat them. Really interesting, predators, and build extremely strong web, very large webs, in fact. I've seen them even in Mumbai, cities like Mumbai, in areas like, the TISS campus and, other places around Denar and Vashi and other places, and very nice spiders to have. Scorpions, again, the general thumb rule is the larger they are, the less toxic they are to us. But they are again lovely creatures. They feed on a lot of insects, a lot of smaller animals, and control populations as predators. Centipedes again are voracious eaters. They eat a lot of insects again. This is the tiger centipede, which grows about half a feet at least, maybe about a foot. And they eat a lot of insects. They are venomous as well. The millipedes are harmless, but they feed on dead and decaying leaves and give back to nature a lot of the compost and a lot of the soil, which kind of enriches growth, right? So very nice animals to have. And if you notice the difference between a millipede and a centipede, millipedes for every segment of their body have 4 legs, that is 2 on each side, whereas centipedes for every segment, they have only 2 legs, 1 on each side. So that's the way to differentiate between a millipede and a centipede. Centipedes are venomous, millipedes not. They're venomous, meaning they can't kill us, but they can give us a bad bite and we can get a temperature running for about a week or so. Snails, again, they eat a lot of plants. African snails are bad, but then there are other snails which control weeds. So you could have some snails which help the soil, but then snails are generally bad for gardens. So you may want to avoid snails, but then they are very much part of gardens, and you can't totally get rid of them. But there are some native snails which contribute quite a lot to the food chain as well and help control weeds. Frogs and toads are again creatures which eat a lot of insects. This is the common Indian toad, and this again has a poisonous skin secretion, which can cause an anaphylactic shock. But then these are creatures which eat a lot of insects. And tree frogs, again, they live upon canopies, tree canopies, and plants. And geckos, they again eat a lot of insects and can help control pests. Beautiful creatures. The garden lizard, also called as the bloodsucker, because during the mating season, the male gets a blood-colored patch on its throat. So it's called as the bloodsucker. It doesn't suck anyone's blood, but then eats a lot of insects. Beautiful creatures to have. These are the common garden lizard, Calyptus versicolor, as we call it. And the peninsular rock agama, these are again found on rocky regions around the city. You can see them all the way till Mumbai, I think, and Maharashtra. And you get them on rocks running around. The males are beautifully colored. They are either yellow or red. And, you can see them, eating a lot of insects again. Rat snakes, these eat, like the name says, rats, but then other rodents as well. So they keep, again, extremely good control of, balance within wild areas around homes. Checkered keelbacks, these are very common in water bodies. Even a small pond, you would have checkered keelbacks, and they are again extremely good control agents. All the big four snakes are found in our cities. So normally, all the big cities, I think in India, have all the big four. This includes the common cobra, spectacled cobra, the crate, common crate, the Russell's viper, and the sausage viper, and all four are found in almost all major cities here. Some of the birds, the house crows and the jungle crows, the broad-billed crows or the large-billed crows, as they're called now, the common names. These are birds which are present very much within our cities. The common myna, the jungle myna. If you go towards Mumbai, you have the hill myna as well, and various other birds. The scaly-breasted munias. These nest within homes. They're found well within homes, and they collect long strands of grass, and they build a nest in kitchen balconies and balcony windows. Blue rock pigeons, like I said, there's only one known wild population of blue rock pigeons in the wild, which is at the Jog Falls in Karnataka, I think. Rest of them are all feral, meaning they're all kept by humans and fed by humans and human dependent. Again, most of our cities are pigeon habitats, thanks to the way we build things. But then they're the most common creatures which we find. And pigeons are also birds which kind of feed their young ones with milk, not milk from a organ, but they have a crop here which binds seeds, and they regurgitate crop milk. And pigeons and doves are also the only birds which can actually drink water without lifting their head. So they put their beaks in and they can suck water, like how we suck through a straw. All other birds scoop water and they have to lift their head to drink water. So very unique adaptations. House sparrows are not extinct. The people think they are. They're not. They are very much found in our areas and around the cities where there are still habitats which are left for them. Birds like sparrows and munias, they prefer to have bushes around where they could actually find prey for their young ones. So unfortunately, the focus of our planting efforts have always been trees and never hedges or never bushes, never anything else where larvae and other things can breed. So you're seeing them going out because of that, because of lack of availability of food, nesting spots, a whole lot of other reasons. Spotted owlets again eat a lot of rats. The barn owls and the spotted owlets are beautiful control agents. A barn owl eats, I think, a pair of rats every day. And if you leave a pair of rats with enough water and food in a room, within a year they turn out to be about 1,000 rats. So they control, literally, eat 1,000 rats, possible rats, every day. So they eat 2 rats every day. So there's a lot of control. And pond herons, one of the most common, well-adapted birds to urban habitats. You can find them in all nalas, small lakes, water bodies across the cities in India. Macaques, bonnet macaques in South India and the rhesus macaque in the north. They're big troops, and they are found again very well adapted to human habitations, along with the langurs in north. The three-striped palm squirrel and the five-striped palm squirrel in the north, both are again found very much within the cities. The short-nosed fruit bat and other fruit bats, like I said, they help plant a lot of trees by eating a lot of fruit, and these are again commonly found across our cities. A lot of rodents, tree mouses. There's the long-tailed tree mouse, which is again found within cities. The grey musk shrew. There's a whole lot of rodents that we get within the cities. In fact, even I think outskirts of Mumbai even have the Malabar giant squirrel, right, which are about cat-sized squirrels. So you do have a lot of squirrels, a lot of rats, a lot of bandicoots, and a whole lot of other rodents that can be seen around the cities. The gaur, which we already saw and spoke about, the largest bovine in the world. Leopards, again, very interesting creatures found across cities. Hyderabad, Chennai, Mumbai, Bangalore, they all have populations of leopards which are adapted to life within cities. And they roam around our streets in the night, lift dogs, eat street dogs, eat bandicoots. They are very, stealthy animals and are adapted very much to life in the cities. Tigers, very few cities which have tigers around them. I think Delhi, the closest place was Alwar, which no longer has, which was Sariska Tiger Reserve, which no longer has tigers anymore. But then, places like the Bannerghatta National Park and some of the other places do have tigers, Tadobba and other places. When you plant gardens, you could plant gardens wherein you could have trees where people touch and feel. Children are encouraged to go climb them. You could look at planning things like that. So we'll talk a little more about how we could attract life here, and you can have a lot of places which encourage the human interaction with nature, because most of our children suffer from a nature deficiency disorder, right? They don't go out much; they're always glued to screens. So encouraging them to do things which otherwise they would not do in our gardens are things that we could have, and plan for while planting them. And even letting small patches of gardens grow wild, which are not manicured gardens, which are not, kept gardens, which are not meant for, providing visual relief in terms of flowers, but then are kept aside just to grow wild. So these are wild islands where nobody goes. There's no pathway, there's no walkway, there is nothing. But it's land reserved for, the wild. And you could have small pockets, small islands, while you're planning the larger landscape, have this. And the right kind of trees, not just natives or landscaping, but, trees which attract wildlife. So everybody has this notion that anything native is good, but there are a lot of non-natives which attract a lot of birds. You could look at the parrot vine tree from South Africa, which has so much of nectar that the flowers literally drip nectar, and some of the nectar actually ferments into alcohol while within the flower. And these are bird magnets; they attract birds like crazy, right? And when it's in bloom, and these are very short stature trees, when they are in bloom, they attract, I don't know. I mean, you can literally sit under the tree and watch birds. They're amazing trees to have. These are Scotia brachypetala, as the scientific name goes, parrot vine trees from South Africa. There are other trees, like, for example, all the way from Mexico, you have the Singapore cherry, which we were talking about, which attracts a ton of flower pickers. It attracts orioles, it attracts barbets, bulbuls. So depending on what you want to plant, you could look at choices as well. And whatever you are planting, you also name them. You name them, you put boards, you put information, so people can understand what is there within their gardens. People can understand what they're losing when a tree is being cut. So they have a sense of belonging. Unless you know what it is, you're not likely to save it, right? So that's a thumb rule that we humans have. We're likely to aid a known friend or a known person versus, a stranger. So, make them feel that, whatever is around them are creatures that are known to them. So name them, climbers and shrubs are often ignored while, doing landscaping. We have beautiful native ones. Like this is the Thunbergia mysorensis, which is, the Mysore clock vine, and you have some amazing, climbers which can be grown. And some of these climbers are, things that we could have, and not just, alamandas and things like that, which are non-natives. But you could also have things like the Mysore clock vine, which attract again a lot of life. You could even encourage container gardening as part of the plan when balconies are built, when terraces are built. And this is from a friend's container garden on top of his terrace, and he's got a beautiful butterfly habitat there going on. And you can see some of the butterflies that come to his terrace garden. And these are all old paint cans and things like that he's using, but you could use planned ones. Bird baths, again, bird baths are beautiful things to have in gardens. And imagine a cup and saucer. Imagine the saucer of a cup. All it needs is a plate which is that shallow. You don't need deep, plates because birds would avoid them. You put a shallow saucer-like, plate, fill it with water, keep some rocks in the middle, and during summer months, our birds love it because we have enough food. We don't have deep winters, except in extreme northern parts of our country, like Himachal and other places. We don't have deep winters. So birds would love to come in summers to bird baths. And bird baths are known, bird magnets. So do keep them in gardens, distribute them around. You could even have places where people can sit around them at a distance, though, and watch birds which come to such structures. So you could plan such structures while planning gardens itself. Biodiversity surveys, even simple ones, work. Like, for example, this is a simple attendance book that a friend of ours keeps, where he records a bird name and says whether it's present or absent on a particular date, right? And over the years, he's collected multiple such books. And today we know exactly in that locality, if somebody wants to see a particular bird, when would be the likely time that it could occur, right? So you could do simple bird biodiversity surveys. If you want complete biodiversity surveys, we do such things as well. But then what I'm saying is even residents can, or even you can do simple biodiversity surveys, which look at frequency, which look at densities, which look at diversity, and you can build data that can be used as well. Smaller life forms, like I said, if you don't spray, you can still attract a lot of smaller life forms, and these are amazing life forms to have around in our gardens. Be it the ants, be it the lesser creatures. And this is from one of our ant walks. Amazing to observe small life forms, which we normally don't pause to look at. And these are again wildlife, and there's a whole lot of interesting stories about their lives, which we can observe firsthand when we look at them. Join an online group. There are lots of online groups. I'm very Bangalore heavy here, but there are a lot of them on Facebook also. India Birds, BNG Birds. I mean, bird watching. There are specific groups for every life form. In fact, if you want a butterfly to be identified, there's a butterfly identification group on Facebook. If you want moths to be identified, there's a moths group on Facebook. So you can, same with Telegram, right? And you can go and, you can approach people and get help to identify various things that you are seeing while planning, so that you know what exists already there in a particular site, and what kind of plants or what kind of trees should you bring in to enhance the life which is already found there. So you could do such things. Today is World Nature Conservation Day. So, and as a lot of us are urban planners here, I just wanted to bring in. We've been using a lot of land for our purposes, humans, right? And I just want to end my talk with this. So if you look at India, we have about 1.35 billion people. So let's say I have this power, and I can give everybody 3,000 square feet of land, right? And this is like, 2,400 square feet for every individual for their home, and a 600 square feet for their garden and a backyard, right? And they can grow their own food, their own vegetables and everything, right? And a family of 4 will get 12,000 square feet, all 1.35 billion people. How much land do you think it would take in India how much land, if we all live side by side, not one on top of the other, but side by side, how much land do you think this will take? This kind of a plan, and let's say I add another 20% on top of this to common utilities like roads, parks, playgrounds, various other things. So everybody gets 3,000 square feet for personal use, and out of it 600 square feet is for gardens, and another 600 square feet on top for roads and common areas. So, and this is every person in our country. So if you calculate it, a back of the envelope calculation would give you roughly about 378,000 square kilometers. And if you add the 20%, you would get about 434,000 square kilometers, which is about the size of Rajasthan and Gujarat put together. That's all the land that we need, right? If we live even side by side, not even on top of each other. So where's the rest of the land going? If you look at India, we have only 4% of land reserved for life other than humans. 96% is used by humans from a land use perspective. Only 4% is in protected areas meant for other life forms. So are we really, in need of so much of land? So where's the land going? Most of the land is going towards agriculture. Almost 80% of our land in that agriculture is 60% is going towards agriculture. 80% of that 60% is going towards not even feeding humans. It feeds animals that humans keep. Right? We have today on this planet more cattle which are kept by humans than human beings alone. Right? So there's a lot of livestock that we keep, and these cattle also result in more greenhouse gases being produced than anything else. Like for example, if you look at all the vehicular pollution in this planet towards greenhouse gases, and if you look at cattle accounts for almost 3 times all vehicular pollution put together. So vehicles and industries contribute about 8% of greenhouse gases. Cattle alone single-handedly contributes about 22% of greenhouse gases. If you take out CO2 from the contribution, and if you look at only non-CO2 gases, cattle's contribution towards greenhouse gases goes up to 60%, right? And yet if we do the same formula across the whole world, I'll just multiply India population by 7x. We are about 7.2 billion people, and we would require the land size of just about India for the whole humanity to live side by side. Every single person on this planet with 3,000 square feet of land. And this is a very rough back of the envelope calculation. I encourage you to go and do it. So there is a movement that is taking place thanks to the pandemic, which is called the Half Earth Project, where we are talking about reserving half the planet at least for other life forms. So while planning gardens, while planning spaces, can we at least keep, if not half, maybe 30% of the land to non-landscaped areas, to let it grow wild, so that other creatures can use it. Other places could have walkways, could have jogging tracks, could have walking paths, could have lawns. But then, can we keep at least 30% of the land for wildlife? So that's a thought that I would like to leave you with, and see whether that's something that you could include in your future projects and in your planning as you go forward. And I would like to thank Pictures. Most of the pictures here come from Karthik ANS. He's the chief naturalist at Jungle Lodges, and then a whole lot of friends who contributed their images, and some are from Wikimedia and IASC as well. So if you have any questions, please do go ahead, and I would be happy to answer them.
Dear participants, we would like to have the question answer round now. So participants can post their questions on chat box. Thank you, Ullas. It was a very thought-provoking presentation. We have a couple of questions. I will just put across that. Till then, the participants can post the other ones.
Sure.
This is architect Meghna Raj, one of our colleagues. We are always led to believe that we have to promote only native plants as they support the ecosystem and create the habitats. But your take is otherwise. Can you please elaborate?
So, like I said, native plants, like for example, native plants are known to support a lot of life, yes. But then there are a lot of plants which are non-native, which grow faster. When you're landscaping a particular region, you're looking at greening the place as fast as possible. You're looking at trees that grow faster. You're looking at trees that don't get eaten by, native pests and can survive, at a much higher rate of survival than native trees, but still be attractive to life forms around them. Like I said, Scotia brachypetala, which I gave an example. Singapore cherry, which I gave an example. Even plants like trees like tamarind, which are not native, which come from Africa. A lot of trees which we have here, which we take for granted as natives, are not natives. Most of our fruit trees are not native, but they support a lot of birds. Like for example, guava. Guava comes from South America, right? So does most of the fruits and vegetables we eat. All of them come from South America, right? The chili that we eat comes from South America, and they still support a lot of life. Parrot slough chilies, that's what we know. Guavas are eaten by bats. They're eaten by squirrels. You name the tree, and there is a lot of life around them. So fruiting trees are all non-natives, right? Except for maybe mango and maybe a Indian black, plum, which is the jamun tree, right? A lot of the trees are, non-native. So how do we encourage life forms? It's not just by looking at natives, but also by looking at utility. What do they use it for versus just, using it, just looking at, whether they are native or not. Political boundaries do not work well for wildlife, as we've seen, dragonflies which migrate all the way from Africa to India and back. So political boundaries are very, very transitional, and they're meant for humans, human population restrictions, and not for wildlife. So we are also not native to this land. We came from Africa. So if you look at it, there's not a single native human being here. All of us came from Africa, but then, natives is a good debate to have, but not always useful while gardening or while landscaping.
Okay, we have another question.
Hello.
Hello. Question. According to you, how much cattle should the farmer possess so that emission rates can be tackled?
Yeah, so cattle is a challenge, right? Because the amount of methane that they produce is huge, humongous, right? And you can't control them. And there's no good way of doing this. There have been exercises where they've fed them onions, they've fed them garlic, they've fed them, various different kinds of feed to actually get them to produce less. But then, do we need to keep cattle is the question. Or is going vegan the way forward for humanity, right? Do we really need milk?
Hello.
Do we really need milk and other cattle produce is the question. So it's a question that needs answers, and probably small scale farming does not. Though it contributes, small scale farming is better than large scale cattle farms that we see. So maybe small scale farming is the answer. But any kind of cattle will contribute. There was somebody to ask a question.
Yeah.
Well, you have covered elaboratively on various aspects, but you have left the prime important marine life, the fishes, which it is part and parcel of any urban landscape or any landscape you take. Marine life is one of the major components. I think that also has to be covered in your topic in the community.
Yeah. So when we talk marine means sea forms, but we are talking, I think you're mentioning aquatic forms. So aquatic forms, there's a whole lot of fish, which we get, but unfortunately a lot of our native fish are disappearing fast, and they've been replaced by, pretty much very invasive, non-native exotics, right? And getting native fish in the market for you to actually put in a garden or pond is a challenge in itself. You don't get native fish. So you need to, and encouraging any other form of fish is also not suggested because, even if you buy it from an aquarium, it doesn't work. So there are hobby societies like the Indian Aquarius Society, which do have native fish stock, which they breed in their own breeding places. So you could look at Indian Aquarius Society and contact them to get native fish for your particular ponds. Just look them up online. It's a very big forum, and there are people who help you there, who can guide you to get native fish to keep in ponds. But then Isolated ponds with fish don't mean much unless you create an ecosystem around them. So you need to have water plants. You need to have enough, wild growth there around in those plants, in those ponds, to encourage fish to live. So if you clean out algae as soon as they form, if you clean out the bottoms, if you bleach bottoms of these ponds, if you do things like that, the fish won't survive. So leaving again wild areas is the answer. Even whether it's a pond, aquatic life forms, leave it wild so that you can have life occurring there rather than it just being a thing of beauty which doesn't support any life forms.
Yeah. There is another question from Dhanush Sadhu. There are certain trees which give 24 hours oxygen. Please elaborate on few of them.
Yeah, every organism on this planet requires oxygen to survive. We all know that, right? So do trees. So trees can't keep on producing oxygen through and through. It's a kind of an information which is kind of wrong, because oxygen is a byproduct of photosynthesis, and photosynthesis, as the word photo says, happens only when there is light. There are trees which probably still produce food during night because of our street lights, but then a lot of trees give out carbon dioxide during the night, and they do require oxygen, and all of them require oxygen even during the day, right? So they can't live without oxygen, as with any organism except for some very deep sea trench dwelling things which live on methane and things like that. We require oxygen for life on this planet, and trees do require it. They just don't produce oxygen continuously 24 hours. It's a cycle, and photosynthesis is what results in water and transpiration and oxygen being given out. So when there is no photo, there's no light, there's no production of oxygen in trees or plants.
So you have given a more of entomological, ecological approach toward landscaping. But what about fragrant landscaping in urban landscaping?
Fragrant, you're talking about smell?
Yes.
Yeah, lots of smell. Like I said, there's just 1 hour. I encourage you to come out if you're in Bangalore for a walk with us. We conduct a walk which is only an aromatic walk, right? In gardens like Lal Bagh and other places where you can actually go and smell things for even botanical identification. You don't need to even.
You have to visit GKVK, sir. I'm a part and parcel. I'm a product of GKVK there.
Okay.
You see the fragrant landscape if you go for early morning walk.
Yeah, I'm very.
It also has to be encouraged wherever we go for various type of planting, especially the fragrant plants, which are part and parcel of our day-to-day life, which gives a beautiful experience to stay within the garden for a more longer time. So that also has to be very important aspect.
Very, very good point. In fact, Bangalore alone had, I think, about 30 species of jasmine at one point in time, and which were grown in gardens in Bangalore back then. But now they've more or less disappeared. Very familiar with GKVK again. A lot of friends who live there. We were also supporters of Kita Vismaya, which was an insect exhibition at GKVK. So very, very familiar with the landscape, with the gardens there. But yeah, you're right.
The place I worked in Tirumala, Tirupati Devasthanam at Tirumala, everything is under fragrant landscaping. The moment you enter the beautiful environments of Tirumala at the end of the road, the beautiful stream of various fragrant trees welcome you, right from Champaka, jasmines, alamandas, Caropita galensis, whatnot. So that fragrant landscaping is part and parcel of that, and that too you have to segregate into different clusters in part of the landscape.
Very true. And you're only talking about trees. You can also look at a lot of creepers which give out a lot of fragrant.
I'm talking about shrubs, creepers. See, when you happen to visit Tirumala, you should look into this particular part. We have a cluster of creepers, We have a cluster of tree jasmine. Oh, I'm talking about jasmine trees. Jasmine tree jasmines, of course, champakas, whatnot, and cassia species, everything in clusters. So the moment all around the year, the fragrant smell, that means flower parade you maintain. That's very important point which we have to take up in urban landscaping. Sir.
True, very true. And we do have a book on called Discover Garden Climbers, where we have indicated which climbers give out fragrant smell. So it's indicated against each species.
And also, we have from Tirumala to Amsterdam, we have published a book, Medicinal Plants of Tirumala, Fragrant Plants of Tirumala, and Trees of Tirumala. So this will be a very important book for your introducing various type of trees, especially if you go for the religious places, wherever in the country. So tree landscaping with fragrant trees, jasmines, whatever the trees, shrubs, creepers, everything important, parts and parts. This one thing has to be incorporated in our part and part of the landscaping procedures.
Excuse me, sir. We will just, I'm just interrupting here. There are quite a few questions which is like that. So I would like to continue, and we would definitely visit GKVK campus once. Thank you for it. Yeah, it's coming from Jayashree. How do you?
No, it's also visit Tirumala Hills.
Okay, sir.
I
Thank you.
hope majority of the people are visited, but if you see that panoramic, fragrant point of view of landscaping, since you have come up with this lecture, this gives a very broad opening. What type of trees are there? What type of people?
Okay, how do we deal with problems, threats caused by wildlife conflict with? This is coming from Jayashree Naidu. So can you elaborate on this?
Threats
This will
caused
be the
by
last question for the session.
Okay, threats caused by wildlife conflict, is it, Lavanya?
Conflict in the urban context.
In the urban. So what has happened is, because the urban sprawl is growing towards the wilder, the wild regions around cities, there is a lot of contact, right? I mean, if you look at Banaghatta, from pure context of Banaghatta, or if you look at SGNP in Mumbai, RA Colony, and various other places, you do have a lot of conflict where animals which used to move around freely are now restricted because there are suddenly housing layouts, right? And these housing layouts in turn are in between the traditional migratory path of animals. So how do you actually have a resolution where both can live together? So sustainability is a myth, right? Sustainability only sustains us. The most ideal situation for wildlife is for us not to be around. So how do we still be around, but then again have them also around? So it's in our pure selfish interest. What is ideal for wildlife is us not being around. So if you realistically look at it, the conflict is because we've gone there and we have established our colonies there, and they've not come and they're not trying to fight with us. We're just in their way. So can we get out of their way and make sure that there is some portion of the land which is reserved for them to still continue with their way of life? Is the question. So it can be resolved. There are ways to resolve it. People have tried various things, from building bridges to building, fog, pathways for migration, to even, looking at, leaving nesting, trees intact, or where birds are nesting, not going around those trees, or not, having those trees, touched upon. There are various ways of doing this, and I would encourage each and every one of you to at least, give other life forms a little more attention while we do our urban planning, whatever planning we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ullas. Yeah, humans have always been very self-centered, and all the developments are surrounding around them. So that is what was, all this time we have been doing that. So your initiative of community-based activities and has somewhere ignited every participant for their inner hobbies and interests. We really appreciate the way you took us through the life stories and characteristics of each species, from, from earthworms or from smallest snakes to the wildlife or the, smallest birds to the butterflies to the moths. So we were truly intrigued with your presentation. So we would like to extend our thank you on behalf of School of Architecture, MS Ramaya Institute of Technology. We would like to thank you, Ullas. It was a very wonderful presentation and good to have you on board. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. What is tomorrow's topic, ma'am? Hello.
So, this topic, the poster will be out in the WhatsApp group.
Okay.
We will send it in the WhatsApp group. The overall schedule is already put in the group.
Okay. Thank you.
I request all the participants to get their materials for the day, 3 to 4 A4 size sheets and painting or coloring materials. So this was requested yesterday. I would like to remind all of you all to get back to your seats, with these materials. Thank you. Dear participants, moving on with our next presenter of the Day 2 Web Talk series, Rediscovering Urban Landscapes, we will start with our next session, Music and Landscape. George Santayana, a philosopher, has told that the earth has music for those who listen. I would like to introduce our next speaker who would be giving you an insight on the topic, Professor Rajshekhar Rao. Professor Rajshekhar Rao is an architect specialized in landscape architecture, graduated from Malnad College of Engineering, Hassan in 1989. Post-graduation from CEPT University, Ahmedabad, 2003, and currently pursuing PhD in JNAFAU, Hyderabad. He practiced architecture in Mumbai for 15 years and is currently serving as professor and head of landscape architecture MArch program in School of Architecture, Ramaya Institute of Technology. He is an associate member of Council of Architecture and Indian Society of Landscape Architecture. He started his architecture career in Mumbai, worked with Parelkar, Ovalkar, Parpia Architects, Dream River Developers, Parekh Sahani and Associates, Mumbai. From 1996 onwards, he started his own firm in Mumbai. He was commissioned with prestigious interior projects, farmhouse projects, industrial projects. Professor Rajshekhar Rao was involved in the redevelopment of campus, Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore. He has also designed school campus, residential buildings, interior projects in Bangalore and designed NS InfoCity a 100-acre residential development project in Doddaballapur, Bangalore. Professor Rajshekhar Rao started his academic career in Ramaya Institute of Technology in the year 2003. He initiated Masters in Landscape Architecture in Ramaya Institute of Technology from 2011. Having 18 years of teaching experience, he has guided more than 300 thesis students and more than 75 PG thesis students. Being a passionate teacher, his research interests are sustainable architecture and landscape architecture. He has received Best Teacher Award from Lions Club in the year 2013. Professor Rajshekhar Rao has published more than 15 international and national journals and presented several papers in national and international conferences. He has received Best Paper Award for publication in International Journal for the paper titled Bamboo Architecture for Ecological Living in 2013. He has conducted many hands-on workshops, seminars, faculty development program. He has been invited as a speaker in various institutions. He has taken up a few social awareness programs. He is a member of BOS and BOE for the parent institution, Bangalore University and other colleges. He is also an academic advisor in other institutions. Sir, I welcome you again on behalf of School of Architecture, Ramaya Institute of Technology. Thank you, sir. The stage is all yours. Participants can pin on Rajshekhar Rao presentation. It will take a minute. Over to you, sir.
Very good morning to all of you. Today I am going to discuss this music and landscape. I always fascinated with music, and I try to find this music in landscape. So when I woke up in the morning, early morning in the resort, I could see the nature.
I would like to ask the participants if the voice is audible.
No audio, ma'am.
Okay, just we are working on it. It will just take a minute.
You need to unmute.
Hello? Hello? Am I audible? Okay.
Yes.
Very good morning, all of you. Very good morning, all of you. Today I am going to speak about the music and architecture. So, the topic where you need to be sensitive.
There are, yeah. Can you just make it full screen? The screen is full. Please make it full screen.
Okay. Sorry for the inconvenience. Again, one more good morning to all of you. Yes, this topic of music and landscape is always fascinating to me because this particular the relationship between a music and landscape is very important. Being a landscape architect, you need to be very sensitive enough to understand that. I'll just give an example, what needs to be sensitive to how you need to be sensitive. So, suppose if I had been to a resort, then, when I woke up early in the morning, through the glass, through the window, I could see the beautiful nature where I could hear birds chirping and some birds are singing. So you need to sense that. That is what is very, very important. So after coming out of the cottage, when I walking through the the meadows, the beautiful landscape it is designed or a natural landscape. So you could see the birds are singing, and if there is a waterfall, the water is falling in that. If there is a stream, the sound of water, it's all nothing but a music. So it's very important to understand, being a landscape architect, to be sensitive towards the nature, and you need to read the nature. I will tell you how to go about it. So let us start with this session with the Lord Ganesha. Since it's the music and landscape, let us start with the music.
सर्वदा ॐ गं गणपतये नमः ॐ गं गणपतये नमः ॐ गं गणपतये नमः गं गणपतये नमो नमः श्री सिद्धि विनायक नमो नमः अष्ट विनायक नमो नमः गणपति बाप्पा मोरया गणपतये नमो नमः श्री सिद्धि विनायक नमो नमः अष्ट विनायक नमो नमः मंगलमूर्ति मोरया ॐ गणपतये नमो नमः श्री सिद्धि विनायक नमो नमः अष्ट विनायक नमो नमः गणपति बाप्पा मोरया गणपतये नमो नमः श्री सिद्धि विनायक नमो नमः अष्टविनायक नमो नमः मंगलमूर्ति मोरया गणपतये नमो नमः श्री सिद्धि विनायक नमो नमः अष्टविनायक नमो नमः मंगलमूर्ति मोरया गणपतये नमो नमः श्री सिद्धि विनायक नमः.
Yeah. So you could hear this melodious devotion song. So you see the background where Lord Ganesha is sitting. You see the nature, beautiful nature, and you could see the waterfall over there. Very serene atmosphere. So, as I said earlier, you need to be sensitive towards all these natural features, and you need to listen to the nature. So we go to the next the presentation, this outline of the presentation. So I will start with the sound. because the sound is the part of the music. Then the music and landscape. What are the similarities between the music and landscape? 10 types of the music and landscape. Sound therapy garden, soundscape, garden ecology, and finally, I'm going to conclude. So, what do you mean by sound? Sound is a vibration that travels through the air on another medium and can be heard when they reach a person's or animal's ear. Now, you could make out just start listening to me and try to visualize yourself in that situation. Imagine you are in a village. It could be a cattle running, a river flowing, right? So, village. But when you come to the urban area, just a minute, I think presentation is not shared. Sorry for the interruption. I think I'm showing actually a slide.
Are the participants able to see the screen? Can one of you respond, please?
No, we see.
Are you able to see earlier?
Yeah, no.
Only audio was the issue.
No, now video is not even visible right now. Video and audio, both.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll just resolve it. Give us a minute.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So please unmute your audio.
Sir, please unmute your audio.
Done. Okay. Yeah, is it audible, audience?
Yes, sir. It's audible. Please go ahead, sir. Both screen as well as
Audible and visible.
visible.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, these are the outline of the presentation. Sound, music and landscape similarity, types of music and landscape, sound therapy, sound in the air or another medium and can be when they reach a person's or animal's ear. So I was asking you to visualize, you are in the village, what kind of a different sounds you can hear. Yeah. So as a landscape architect, so just visualize early in the morning what kind of a sound. So can you make a note out of it? And if you are in the afternoon, what kind of, because the sound which you hear in the morning is different sound you hear in the afternoon is different, and in the evening it is totally different, and in the night totally different. Yeah. So identify which are wanted noise, which are unwanted noise. Okay. So that is the one. And when it comes to a city also, you could see that no doubt its population is more, it is quite dense, and now in this case also, you will hear more of unwanted noise than the wanted noise. Yeah, so you have to be careful. I'm just repeating again that you are having a more unwanted noise and wanted noise. Now, why all these unwanted, wanted noise is important? Because as a landscape architect, how to mitigate those unwanted noise. That is what is our job is. So, the dense population, because of so many activities we could hear unwanted noise more. Pick audio, so where you can hear these. These are the unwanted noise in the city. These are human-induced sounds. Next, waterfall. These are the wanted sounds, which we literally want in our landscape design. Now, what image I am showing, it is in a terrace garden. We love to have this because unwanted sound, we have created wanted sound. Please understand my sentence. To nullify would like to incorporate as a part of a landscape design in the outdoor area. So people are using as the Vastu also nowadays. These are the natural sounds. So when you are designing, you see to that you are designing a dense vegetation, varied and old trees, which will have several layers, so that Trees are habitable space for all these birds, and that will also attract a songbird. Okay, so just now, so there are some natural sounds where you could see if you are near the seashore. Sometimes these so-called wanted sounds will become unwanted when, when there is a high tide, so it will start roaring. So that's you need to understand. As a part of the nature, it will have both wanted sound and unwanted sound. So what is important, being a landscape architect, we need to understand what is this soundscape. Soundscape design is a practice with urban design in creating a beautiful and memorable sound experiences for people. A soundscape approach considers sound as an important and wanted sound in a place. It reaches sound by masking unwanted sound and emphasizing wanted sound. Soundscape design differs from noise control in that it accepts sound as a component of urban life. Soundscape design as managed sound and to create a memorable sound places in a city. So this is what it means, a soundscape. Now, you can do this. This is an interesting exercise. It's an activity. So, you take any city and a part of the city or a part of the street and find a loud sound, creating a beautiful and memorable sound experience. Now, what you see in the image, there are categories. You could see that those are the sounds created by the people, vehicle, and other things. So you need to identify which are the loud. Suppose, for example, if a vehicle sound is more, then you have to categorize in other thing, and the other medium sound. You can do it whenever you are free. Do that. It will be an interesting exercise for you. Next, we will move on to the, see, for example, this is the scenario. What I have shown is earlier was a section or a elevation. Here you could see literally, photograph where you take this kind of a place in your city and try to find out and sketch it out. If the people people are talking on the mobile, that is one kind of a people. The people are there, but they are not using the mobile phone, but they are walking. So their footsteps will be there. That also create a noise. More people, more number of a sound, more number of a noise. And you have to identify, say there are vehicles are there might be, honking of vehicle is also there. So, and, there are so many things. Now, why this particular exercise is important. Suppose if you are a landscape architect and if you are asked to design these things and if you want to nullify unwanted sounds, how do you take care of that? What are the elements which you are introducing in such a way that it negate, or it may not be 100% negate the sound, but definitely you can reduce the volume of that particular thing. So when you are designing streetscape, just take care of this. It's very, very important. I am staying in JP Nagar and in the apartment facing absolutely a road, and it is it's horrible after going from work and sitting in the house. If I open the window, one case, I have to be mad. So those kind of, it's very important as a landscape architect because I'm staying because of the echoes of the that the sound will hit into our apartment, and again it will hit back to the compound wall. Again it will reflect to our flat. So as a landscape architect, not only just beautifying the street and other things, we should take care of these the soundscape as well. That is the idea of giving this particular exercise or assignment. Now we will move on to the next activity 2. Find a quiet soundscape. Acoustic ecology is an emerging field in which acousticians and sound artists and technicians are recording and mapping sounds of nature. Activity you have found the loud soundscape. Now here you are going to find out a quiet soundscape. For example, this one. So if you take and there is a beautiful landscape designed by landscape architect. Now it's your job to find out the quiet soundscape. What do you mean by quiet soundscape? Now there are trees are there are shrubs are there are ground covers are there might be a lawn over there. The birds or other any small creatures, what it makes a sound. You might have seen all of your lifetime that it's a very small creature, but its noise is such irritating, right? So you have to find out what is the quiet soundscape. So that is again you need a video and you need to record the sound. This is another exercise. How this will help. So if you have a quiet soundscape, so it is required. Okay, from this bird I will hear a beautiful noise. Okay, so I can select. So what made to get that bird into this particular thing? So can I introduce a lawn? Can I introduce a shrub? Can I introduce a tree? All those things will come under a picture. So try to find out that quiet soundscape also. That is another assignment or activity for you. So, and after that, you have to manage soundscape. So, you have loud soundscape and the other landscape. So, wherever there is a loud soundscape, you need to manage. Now, you have after recording, these are the causes for the maximum sound. Okay. So, what I can do? So, can I have in the plaza, say for example, it is an open plaza. So, you have identified or recorded some horrible noise. So, what you do in that plaza, you introduce a fountain. Left hand corner, I have shown the fountain where it has got its own noise. So, when you are introducing that own noise, that is are you getting my? So, in the design, could introduce a vertical guard. It will also add, it's a multi-purpose. It will done a soundscape design. Now, after all that, then you have to make a activity 3 in that 4, rather make a sound chart. So, list out, and map on it. Yeah. So that you have to map to. So you will get to know when you mapping it. Oh, these are the people or vehicles or some other things are creating unwanted noise. Okay, and there are certain elements which will get wanted noise. So if you list it out, it is like a library. You can take out those elements and you put it wherever you want. If you want, nobody wants unwanted noise, definitely, but everyone wants a wanted noise. So, wanted sounds. So that will help. At the end of the day, the whole exercise will complete with this, a list of wanted and unwanted noise, so that in the landscape design we can take care of that. Yeah. So that is the one thing. Next, we will move on to the. So next is the music. So from the sound we are going to the music. Music is a sound that has been organized by using rhythm, melody, harmony. Musical sounds and silence. Every tune has a rhythm that can be tapped. So there is a lot of difference between a sound and music. Sound, it is created naturally by human induced or technological induced, but music is composed. It is created. It's like a landscape is created. Yeah. So music is also created. So with having rhythm, notes, music is. Is a totally different phenomena, and its importance. We'll move on to the next slide. So I just wanted to compare that music and landscape. There is a rhythm in the music. You could see rhythm in the repetition, and you could see that in the you can create that particular rhythm in your landscape design. These are the elements. Music has got a texture, the landscape also has got a texture. So try to design landscape with the various textures so that when people are passing in the footpath, they could touch, feel and smell and etc. Rhythm in the landscape, in the nature, that you could see that there is a God created rhythm in the landscape which is natural. So you could see the pattern. There is a definite pattern, and there is a reflection. That reflection is also having a pattern. And on the right side, you could see again a pattern. So you could see the architects, landscape architects, keeping this certain principle that. It can create a rhythm in a landscape. So it could be a softscape pattern, it could be a hardscape pattern. But these are all patterns made, man-made landscape. So you could see this rhythm in the landscape, repetition in a natural landscape. So even in you could see the landscape, it could be running in the stream, or it is a movement, a curvilinear movement in the in the pathways, and zigzag movement in the pathway again. So these are all. It creates a sense of it is like music. So types of music and experience. So all of us, we understand that we need to experience everything, whether it is architecture, landscape architecture, interior design. unless we experience, we will not be able to design. Okay, so in the type of music, there are some devotional music, there are romantic music, there is the music related to related to sorrow. So let us enjoy this experience, devotional music. The types of music and its emotion and that happiness that should create a mood in nature. So nature, architecture is a dead thing, but buildings are dead. It won't change. But the beauty of the landscape is, it will change it with respect to the season. Morning it is different, afternoon it is different, evening is different, night is totally different. So that is the beauty of the nature. But can we create these kinds of moods, emotions, and how do we do it? But how do we do it? Looking at the natural landscape, that will guide you a lot in deciding how to create a mood and everything. Nature is one of the best example. I could say that you could learn a lot how to create a mood. So music can lead to masterful composition and of mass and space, light and shadow and color, texture and movement. That might be all embedded through a totally rational, emotional approach to design. So ultimately, whether it is a music or whether it is a landscape, you need to select a proper element, and that is what is important. Otherwise, the music will be spoiled and the landscape design will be spoiled. So selection of element is also very, very crucial. What creates a rhythm, what creates a repetition, what is important is that experience. When you're walking through the landscape design, you should feel happy. You should feel fresh. You should feel, throw yourself into the garden, and you should feel like sitting the entire day in that particular design, looking into the sky, looking into the water body. That is the special about the paper. But I'm asking, are we sensitive enough to understand these emotions, these moods, these these sensations in a landscape design?
Sorry for the interruption. These are the, we are getting acquainted with the new normal.
It's confusing.
Am I audible? Okay. Sorry again. Sorry for the inconvenience. Even during the earlier period, the gardens are used as, pleasure, and where king or queen sitting in the landscape and they are hearing the music. It's interesting to see that even in earlier days we could see these, concept of having a music as a part of the landscape design. So, understanding this particular thing, landscape architects have started the healing gardens where you could take a, take a walk in that these areas where they could refresh themselves in this scenario. So, healing gardens, there are, particularly in abroad, they have made this sound of music walking trail where as a tourist you are walking through in these forests and you could see the birds and you can listen to their singing. So it's a part of therapy, and you love walking in these forest trails. So again, as I said, you need to be sensitive enough to hear the music of the birds or the sound of the birds. There are certain musical playgrounds also architectural landscape architects started designing to help students or the kids to celebrate or enjoy the play. The landscape architects have designed different equipment where you can hear different sound. So that's a musical playground, and even the magic garden which has been created so that music therapy. So the tourists are asked to sit in wherever they want under the tree, in between the shrubs, and they will playing a guitar or any other instrument. So they spend whole day in these magic gardens, so they get refresh themselves. So there are even music, play equipment are provided as a part of the playground. So that also you could see. So for the special child, to encourage them and to make active in these playgrounds, even for a special child, these sound therapy will be really helpful. So they could enjoy, they could hear, they could make different sounds and they celebrate this music in this playground. So, music, if you see that music as a tool in a landscape architecture, creating places of stillness, meditation, and tranquility that you could see. So, in this figure, in this image, you could see that beautiful setting, landscape setting, designed by architects, landscape architects, and making use of the landform. They created beautiful body and used, different colors so that it is refreshing. And and they're asked to sit in those platform and listen to the music. So you could see that the tone of music and it is so refreshing. And people are using this. Before if they don't get a sleep at home, they used to play this particular music so that they could get a sleep. So one more Zen garden where you can play that Zen music. So, you could see the kind of natural setting which is being designed in this Zen garden. This is a Sufi song which is played in the music So you could see this, different settings and the same Zen garden. Uh, but, that is what is important for you. The last one. Okay, so to see in all these four songs, there is a variation in the music, and you could see that even in landscape, you could see the variation of landscape elements. Settings are totally different, which is it looks very natural setting, even though it has been designed, but the elements which has been used is perfectly beautiful. So there is a lot to learn from the music, and how best you can incorporate. I heard that one of the architects, he was not getting how to design a waterfall, and he was listening to these kind of a music, and listening to all these music, he got inspiration and started designing in his own waterfall. So definitely, whenever you are happy, you will be, hearing the beautiful music. You celebrate your success. It could be a practice or your family or whatever it is. So that is the, sense of the music. And definitely, if we design the natural settings like that, client will be the most happiest people. Now, there are sculpture parks have been designed, you could see the scale, it's very huge, almost about 3 meters high in the forest, because, in the forest, when people are taking a trail, so that they could see these wind chimes, and they will have its own, the sound, which is the wanted sound. The landscape architects, even they are doing these installations. It is around 500 bells, which is put up on that, and the people could walk on that, touch on that, and it creates a sound that is being created over this. It's a simple intervention not to disturb the natural setting, just adding one more element, which is musical. This is the detail of it, and you can see the height, and it is so this music and architecture workshop, which has been conducted in SOAR earlier also. So I have conducted this particular music and architecture workshop. People have it's offline rather. So singers are singing, and people are painting this particular thing. We see how our students have participated, and they started stitching. The singer was telling, he was singing a different songs, morning raga, evening raga, and students are they have students painted. Even faculties are involved in a painting. And after the painting is being done, it is displayed, and the comments have been given. So why I'm showing this particular picture, after this there will be a 15 minutes of we are going to play a music, and I request all of you don't go back, because the presentation will continue after 15 minutes. So you can just take I have reduced the scale or scale of the sheet or size of the sheet so that you could do it faster. So what you need to do, you need to just take A4 sheet and take a color, which could be a pastel color or watercolor, whatever it is. So I'm going to play a music now. So I'm going to play three music. So each music is a different. One is the very slow music, and there is one medium, and there is a high pitch music. All three are there. So what you need to do, you take a brush and take a. There should not be a fixed or a fixed pattern. Okay, it has to you have to paint that paper and keeping music in mind. If pitch goes up, then your the painting will be a dark like that. And there should not be. I don't want to see sun, moon, and other things. You need not to. That is a preconceived idea. We don't want that kind of a thing. Whatever comes into your mind, it is like a stress buster for you. And just take colors and just paint it onto the thing. So the first one will be only vertical. Whatever you want to do, only do vertical, taking up paint. It could have a depth or whatever it is, whatever you want to do it, but only vertical. Second music, it will be horizontal. Okay, you need to do a shading horizontal, do whatever you want. And the third one is random. You can do whatever you want in a third one because it is a high pitch. You can do whatever you want. As I said, we don't want any beautiful scenery and other things. You should follow the music. That is what is the fun in this thing. And whenever you are stressed in your lifetime in the future, just put on the music, just scribble, take the paint, just roll on to it so that you will feel relaxed. And this exercise workshop I have conducted 3-4 workshop like it in other institutions also, even in NASA, National Association of Students Association. There also students have enjoyed, and it was a fun. If it is if it would have been offline, you would have enjoyed with few people. That's fun. Even in online, you can do it. So you could see that the paintings which is done of we had a group. Unfortunately, we cannot have. I think you might be sitting with your daughter or a son or a brother or a sister. You can also call them and start asking them to do and together or maybe alone. So that is the kind of pictures they got after music, after 5 minutes of the music. So that is the one thing. So sorry. Okay. So now we are going to play a music. Please don't go back. So you have to be there on the platform. So we are going to play now the first music that is for 5 minutes, and just listen to the music and please do the painting. Whatever you want, there is nothing, no order in it. But first I am going to play the slow song.
Sir, it has to be in one paper, or you can use 3 different papers?
Yeah, three different paper. Because first song is for 5 minutes. You have to use one paper. Second one, for the second song you can use another paper. Don't do all the 3 songs in one sheet. The size of the sheet is very small. Okay, started. Music is started. Come back. Come back.
Sir will be continuing with the conclusion part of it. We would like to mail you the audio clips so that you can work it at home and send the images on WhatsApp. Sir, we would like to we would like you to continue with the conclusion. With the next slide.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Continuing with this presentation. So we will email those three songs to you people. Just try out and please do it and send it to us so that it will be helpful. So it will be an interesting thing for us to also look at how you people have done this, listening to the music, and please also give a feedback after doing this particular exercise. What is your feeling about doing this exercise? Okay, so that's one thing. And these are the work which is done. Listening to the music, the first one, second one. You could see that text somewhere, the darker color and medium color and lighter color. Wherever there are the lighter tones are there, it is shaded, and wherever the darker pitch has come, high pitch has come, here it has been used. You can use the colors simultaneously together, and you can create it or separately. So you can overlap with some other thing, not necessarily you have to do it in one layer. If you see right side picture, it is one layer. After that, second, in the same music, there will be high pitch, so that they have put, the color once again. So these are just an example to show it to you that what is the result. You might not have seen or copy in the internet and other thing. It is come with your mind. Whatever it is happening in your mind, that has been reflected over here in this particular image. So you could see this is again. It looks a little bit tough. For example, if you see, it looks like a small human figure, but otherwise, overall, I could see that the moon over there. But we don't want this kind of a setting actually, because it is a preconceived idea. I wanted to have this, let us do like that. No, that should not be the result. The result should be, it's an amazing painting, no doubt about it. Whoever has done this, it is, I think the last time when we gave to MR student, Purnima has done this particular, our student Purnima has done this. So it was amazing to see as a painting. I think, it will beat any modern painters. Look at this amazing painting, which is the process of this music. This is one more images which I wanted to show. And as I said, this is a random that will come under the third category. This is the last one. All participants work. So please, participate, and whenever you are doing it, do it and send it to us. We will be happy. Okay, we'll post it. Okay. Now coming to this, we have talked enough about the music in the private spaces, private projects. Now coming to the public spaces, as a designer, landscape designer, we always design the fountain. So now it has become a light and music, fountain. It has become popular now, whether it is the Mysore or say any other place. So you need to create that, and the water has to follow the music. That is the beauty of it. So that also you could see. This is another one. Next one. These are all the different shapes with respect to the, I could not play the video today. No doubt it's all sensor based, so that we follow the sensors. And after that, landscape architects started, using this water and the music and light as a part of their landscape design, where people are participating in this design. Okay, you see this particular slide where there is a fountain, people are getting wet, there is a music, there is a light. So they are enjoying this particular thing. So what is important to that, earlier slides which I have shown just now, it's all visual, landscapes are visual, they're not participating in this. Yes, visually you are participating, otherwise physically you are not. But in this case, you are physically participating in it, which is more, very popular nowadays. And, those kinds of design where people are happy, and, in abroad, every Sunday, Saturday, they used to come and, use these kind of places. Well designed, landscape is, you can feel the music. It's in Singapore airport. Jewels designed by Pete Walker. It's a fantastic, when you're passing through, one platform to another platform, you could see this amazing, piece of landscape where, this huge scale water body, which is a waterfall which is falling from that, and, the kind of atmosphere created, beautiful. Again, this is the 911 ground where, again, the sound makes a lot of difference, because of the water, because of the sound, wanted sound rather. So, you can see it in the serene atmosphere. So, very common in abroad where landscape architects are using these spaces and water and music to create a fantastic garden. All of these workers work. Yesterday, architect Michael Little was telling that they used to have a sequel to the trees, so that they could hear the tigers, the lions, the sound, so that they will get to know that a lion is there or a tiger is there. So, as an architect, as a landscape architect, it's very, very important to understand that, yes, those tigers, the lions come to those areas, so you need to design accordingly. This is a sound wave pendant recently designed in China. So it's one of the famous public space. This Penda creates the landscape of purple pillars for audio-visual installation in a Chinese park. So it is around 500 bright purple pins, which are dotted with LED and play traditional Chinese music from internal speakers. So the architects have designed this sound wave structure for Meyer Tree Garden, a 2 square mile park inhabited by collection of 1,000-year-old fire trees with vibrant purple foliage. So they have added that natural tree that was purple in color, the flowers and the stem. So Penda added a bank of tall steel pins, which looks like a miniature metropolis, to the entrance of the gardens on the outskirts of the city. Penda, based on a design on the quote, music is a liquid landscape architecture, and it is a frozen music by German writer and politician John Wolfgang. The purple pillars of varying heights are intended to present the rising and falling bars of a digital sound visualizer that synchronizes with music. Music, rhythm, and dance in combination with the surrounding landscape were the main parameters shaping this sound wave. That is the comment of the architect. So, landscape architecture is a frozen music. The pins are cladded in a sheets of prefabricated stainless steel in 4 shades of purple, representing the tones found in the flowering tree. The brightness of the light and the volume of the music are controlled by motion sensors around the site, activated by the movement of passers-by. The orchestra of 500 pins produce a lighting which is connected to the plaza's sound system and reacts in a very different way to the movement of on the plaza, explained the architect. The louder the music, the more vivid the movement, the brighter the illumination on the plaza. So this particular piece of art are designed to be used for social gathering and dance performance. So inspiration is the natural scene, and it's fantastic, fantastic urban space where people come and celebrate, they enjoy the music. So the final thing that we need to be, as a landscape architect, we need to be sensitive enough, and we need to design this wanted noise, wanted sound in our design. Best thing is, without any expenditure, you explore the nature. Explore the nature in the sense, you design the trees which attract birds, singing birds, and definitely you need not to spend anything. Only you need to spend the native vegetation which will attract birds and other animals. Your job is done. So you need to identify, because the design of a biotope, that is a habitable space in a landscape design for birds and animals, gives sonic experiences. Okay, that's what you need to know. So their ecology is also will be improved of that your site, and you will get what you want. That is wanted sound. So you are creating not only a habitable space for the birds or animals, you are also getting the wanted sound or the wanted music if new for landscape design. So one of the important element in landscape design is if you want the music in your landscape design, understand the landform. If landform helps you, supports you, then you can utilize and create a water body which is natural, and that will help you in getting these music in a landscape, because water is considered a part of the music, and no doubt you are creating an ecology where lot of birds, animals, aquatic animals are depending upon this water. So definitely you can have it. Many architects are doing it, no doubt about it, but you need to understand the potential of the site, and if it allows, so that you can allow water to flow through your site, create this kind of a scenario, so that you might be heard that the rattling sound of a bamboo. You just stand next to it. You will find whenever there is a breeze, there is a rattling sound of bamboo. So which grows next to these water bodies, and water body is one more kind of a sound which is constant, where the rattling sound of bamboo we will hear only once in a once in a while whenever there is a breeze. Okay, so you will get a true music in the same setting. Yeah, and birds, no doubt about it. It will be an ad setting. Animals will come. Other creatures, small creatures, will create a sound which we wanted. So you need to understand that these are the soundscape action which you need to take. First is localization of functions ensures sonic compatibility when locating different functions in the landscape. Consider example distances, the directions, and the topography. Second one is reduction of unwanted sound. That is particularly in urban area. Noise screens we can use. Acoustic properties of materials we can use. Topographical changes. So for example, if you're creating a mound in between the vehicular movement and the pedestrian movement, you can do that, such as a mound, and source reduction you can do. And third one is the introduction of wanted sound. Consider example materialities such as water, vegetation, gravel, sound art, and the sound installation rather, attraction of activities such as birds, masking, etc. Okay. So these are the there is a new terminology has come, soundscape garden ecology. Those who are interested, time is not enough to explain. There is one more presentation I have to do. This is a vast landscape terminology, that is soundscape garden ecology, where people are using that very much because sound has become a nuisance now in urban areas. So landscape architects are using this concept with other agencies also. So landscaping here we are using as a noise treatment, creating a calming soundscape. So all of you know that noise pollution creates health disorder, heart problem, hearing loss, and sleep disruption and impaired learning. And if it is so, can you create a small garden that acts as a noise barrier? Yeah. Plant evergreen trees along the border of your garden. Add a second layer of evergreen and shrubs. Yeah, don't worry about the space. If you have a limited space, you can do it. It's a small space over here. You can see that green walls are created, the hedges are created, and you can add even the bird cages so that birds will come and utilize the spaces. I have seen in our apartment, the birds are coming regularly, so we are allowing them to come, and we are creating some spaces. Now, this one is a very interesting thing, acoustic ecology. It's again a soundscape or a soundscape garden ecology where this particular property is facing a heavy traffic road. Okay, it's so much noise that you can't use the space. Yeah, imagine. Try to visualize there is no water body. Try to visualize there is a huge compound wall. That was the initial stage. Then it is asked landscape architects to design for this particular area, and he has designed or he has created this setting where because of this waterfall, I'll tell you again how to negate. He has used this waterfall so that you can try it your home. If you are having noise from the road, just on your TV and louden the music. Okay, you don't hear the traffic only, traffic noise. In the same, I'm just giving an example. So this is the same thing. So landscape architect has created this water body. It has created a wanted from the road. Yeah. So these are the intervention, and no doubt he has created trees, and on either side it has created a vertical garden, and you could see that people are enjoying this particular place. So it's a very important aspect, where they can have a business meeting in this particular place. So soundscape garden ecology will also, encouraging the landscape architects to design a soundscape parks. And finally, we want to conclude this the presentation that yes, there is a lot of scope. This is latest landscape garden ecology, yeah, and soundscape, and it's very interesting. And still, all of you can explore this possibility how to negate, because ultimately, as a human being, when I come from the work, when I come home, I should be peaceful. And if you have the outdoor environment, it will help to make me that I could, be comfortable, nothing like it. That's what landscape architect's job, and be sensitive as a landscape architect. Then you will find more things, you can explore more, not only music, everything in this world. So with this, I want to say thank you for everyone. I'm sorry there are so many technical hits in this presentation. Sorry for that, and I apologize for the same. And we are going to send those 3 songs to your mail ID. So please respond to that. Just to we are curious how we would do all those 3 sheets. Thank you so much for this bearing with me for all these technical flaws, and hope you enjoyed this presentation. And thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for this insightful presentation, and sorry for the technical glitches. I would like to open the question answer round. Participants, please post the questions. There is a question, Isha. Does the iconic building, example Taj Mahal, and its garden analyzes the soundscape architecture? Does the iconic example Taj Mahal and its analyzes the soundscape architecture?
You need to analyze, and you have to see whether there are certain parameters. As you said, there was activity which is given to you. You see earlier Taj Mahal and the present Taj Mahal. It is totally different now. There is so much of urbanization happened, and that serenity is lost now. And the river which is next to it is totally polluted, so there are no birds coming over there. And yes, you need to analyze. I have given the parameter how to record and how to find out the high, medium, and the low, unwanted voice and wanted voice. If you do that exercise even for Taj Mahal, then to be able to assess that whether it is able to do it or not. But one thing I wanted to tell you that all the gardens which is designed, all historical gardens which is designed, they are very, very sensitive. Yeah, whether it is a selection of a plant material or inviting all these birds or aquatic animals, everything. They are very, very sensitive. And yes, I can say that yes, maybe earlier it was there. But why this soundscape and this all these have come? Because we have spoiled the environment, we have spoiled the ecology. We made a mistake now. We are using it with all these methods. So yes, I think I have answered you better.
Thank you, sir. We will wait for 2 minutes for the questions to come up. Otherwise, there are a lot of messages telling that it was a very informative session and a very good presentation. We would like to thank our HOD, Professor Pushpa Devanathan, for encouraging us for this FDP. I would like to call Surekha Ramineni to give the thank you.
Hello all. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our Professor Rajshekhar Rao for opening our minds to the less explored areas of soundscape and the ways of integrating music into landscape architecture. I've watched the movie August Rush. It was one of the most inspiring movies that I've watched, where a small boy is so intrigued by every element which he sees around himself, and he tries to find music in it. And this session was like we were trying to find landscape in every musical element. So I could totally relate to it. I'm sure most of us have been able to do that because of all the feedback that I see says that the session was very interesting and inspiring. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the interesting session.
Dear participants, we would like to wind up today's session and we'll be meeting at the same time. We can all of you can log in 5 minutes before 11 o'clock with the same ID, Google Meet ID. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. We would like to wind up the session.